Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. Yep, 5 episodes of dumb decisions just from this week's slate of games alone. I swear the stupidity of the season is at an all-time high, but we've got to do what we've got to do. Here we go. October 2nd, 2023. It's week 7 of the NFL season, and we've got an interconference matchup on our hands over in the Windy City in Chicago, between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Chicago Bears. For the main subject of our story, the Las Vegas Raiders, this is an absolutely monumental game for them. After a shaky start to the season, they have won 2 straight games, beating the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots, and now find themselves squarely at 500. If you can win this game, a few things happen. Number 1, you get above 500 for the first time since week 1. And number 2, you find yourselves in the wildcard hunt against all odds. But you have to win this one, especially with how brutal your schedule is over the next month before the bye week. Still, this game shouldn't be a problem. I mean, the Bears are starting an undrafted quarterback who 1 year ago was playing Division II football. This can't be hard, right? Turns out, that couldn't be further from the truth. Because somehow, the Raiders found themselves down 21-3 through 3 quarters, looking completely incompetent and inept, which seems to be a common theme for the Josh McDaniels era. You're down by 3 scores, and for all intents and purposes, you have to approach this as a 3-touchdown game, since you're down 18. Your defense can't get a stop, so you figure the defense will allow a field goal at some point to make it 21, and even though you technically need 2 touchdowns and a field goal, you also need a 2-point conversion, which is no guarantee. And to Vegas' credit, when the 4th quarter starts and they find themselves at Chicago's 9-yard line, they know the situation. It's 4th and medium. They already took 5 minutes off the clock, and they already drove pretty deep down the field, so they figure, screw it, let's go for it. Sure enough, when Brian Hoyer hits Davante Adams for a gain of 4, they get a new set of downs. 4 more chances to score and cut the deficit to a true 2-score game, and maybe even a 21-11 ball game, which puts you right in the thick of things and allows your defense some minor room for error down the stretch. First down, and oof, that is not a good run. The Raiders had trouble running the ball all day, finishing the game with 39 rushing yards, and with runs like that, it's not hard to see why. You've got to hurry to the line with a running clock and show some urgency. You've got to show some sense of urgency here, so why is the clock running so much? Do you not realize you're down by 3 scores? Holy cow, guys, pick up the pace. You don't have a lot of time. Second down after taking 40 seconds off the clock for some reason, and Hoyer gets some of that yardage back with a 4-yard pass to Jacoby Myers. Alright, 3rd and medium. Time to get a move on. Why is the clock still running so much? Show some urgency! Show some freaking urgency! Time is a finite resource, and you're wasting it! You're wasting it so much! Get to the line and go! Get to the line and go! This is absolutely insane! It's like they're up by 3 scores and not down! Do they know the situation? Get a move on! 3rd down after taking another 40 seconds off the clock. I don't know why. And after Hoyer's pass is incomplete, 2 minutes later, it's 4th and goal. Well, you're in the same exact spot as before when you went for it, except you wasted 2 minutes for no reason. In fact, you're probably in a worse spot now, since before there were 14 minutes and now there's 12. So if you went for it like last time when there was way more time on the clock, you figure that here, you're just going to go for it again. To kick the field goal in the same spot, considering everything that's happened, would just be asinine, but come on. The Raiders aren't that dumb to try it, right? You're kidding me. You're kidding me at this point. But why? Why would you kick the field goal when 2 minutes ago in the same spot, before you burned all that clock, you went for it? What are you trying to accomplish on this drive? What is your strategy? Why are you kicking the field goal? Why are you kicking the freaking field goal?
The way the Bears are running the ball, I don't know if there's enough time.
And Daniel Carlson, good on the field goal.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Las Vegas Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels. I was wondering entering this season who seemed like they were going to be the weekly punching bag this year, where every single game, they would be a candidate to make it onto this show. And every single week, they'd have a chance to do something incredibly stupid. And sure enough, Josh McDaniels, you are that person this year, to the shock of no one. It's actually amazing how woefully unqualified this man is to be a head coach, and how everyone clowned this hire at the start, and how everyone has been right. This is now McDaniels' third appearance on the show this year, following his debacle against the Pittsburgh Steelers where he did something incredibly similar to this, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, and his debacle against the Green Bay Packers, where he somehow chose the worst possible option late in the game in a 4th down spot, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Of his 3 appearances, this one is definitely the weakest of the 3, but it's still stupid nonetheless. It's like the kid who fails a math test with grades of 40, 42, and 51. Like the 51 is the least egregious of the failures, but it is still a failure all the same. Either way, I think Josh McDaniels has a thing for kicking field goals in the 4th quarter at the worst possible time to kick a field goal, because there's definitely a common theme with all of his appearances thus far. So with that being said, let's take a look at why calling a field goal in an almost identical spot just 2 minutes after passing up the field goal is a really bad idea. There's 2 key concepts at play here that make this decision all the more baffling. We need to talk about the concept of possessions and the concept of the clock. Now, if this was, let's say, a 17-point game at this spot and on an 18-point game, this becomes an entirely different issue. Yes, an 18-point game is a 3-possession contest, and kicking a field goal to cut it down to a 15-point game makes it a 2-possession contest. But it's a 2-possession contest with a heavy asterisk next to it. If you make it a 15-point game, yes, you technically only need 2 scores to take the lead, but you need to get a 2-point conversion, which, unlike an extra point, is not close to a guarantee in the slightest bit. Teams are hitting on extra points over 97% of the time this year, with your Raiders hitting on all of them, while the 2-point conversion is somewhere around a 50-50 play. This means even if you cut it to a 15-point game, if your defense doesn't allow any more points, you still might wind up being down by more than 2 possessions at the end of the day, depending on what happens with that all-important 2-point conversion. And again, that's assuming that your defense, which has been playing like garbage all game, gets nothing but stops the rest of the way. With 12:24 left, you figure that the Bears have time for 3 more possessions. If you kick the field goal here to cut it to a 15-point game, not only are you relying on that 2-point conversion at some point to go from 2 scores to 1 score, but you are relying on your defense to make 3 stops without allowing a single point on a day where they've allowed a touchdown so far on half of their drives. Because if you cut it to 15, and your defense allows even 1 field goal on their next 3 drives, it's back up to a 3-possession game. And this late, that's just about insurmountable. Again, if this was just a simple case of cutting it from a 3-score game to a 2-score game, that's one thing. But it's not that simple, because it's cutting it from a 3-score game to a 2-score game with an asterisk due to the 2-point conversion. But the main issue with this is the second concept, which is the clock. And that's the big issue I have with this. At this point in the game, you are running out of possessions. You are running out of time. You are running out of opportunities to score. You went for it on 4th and 4 at the 9-yard line with 14:12 left, recognizing this, and recognizing that you probably need to score a touchdown here. And yet, on 4th and 6 at the 6-yard line, 2 minutes later, taking a crap ton of time off the clock, because there's no reason in that spot that you should only be able to get 3 plays off in 2 minutes when you're down by 3 scores in the 4th quarter. So way to show some urgency, guys. You kick the field goal? If you kick the field goal on 4th and 4, all right, I don't agree with that. But this just becomes somewhat of a questionable decision versus an outright dumb decision. But in an almost identical spot 2 minutes later, or actually a worse spot because of the clock, you kick the field goal? Why did you change your philosophy midway through the drive? Your playbook is exactly the same on 4th and 4 versus 4th and 6. It's not like you went for it on 4th and 2, and now you're faced with 4th and 14. Most teams have a medium package for anywhere from 4th and 4 to 4th and 7. Granted, I'm not sure that McDaniels has that, seeing as I'm not sure what McDaniels does other than eat crayons on the sideline in big spots. But why did you change everything up? It's very similar to what happened in a 1989 game between the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, when Joe Woolen did something almost identical, much to the chagrin of Jets fans everywhere. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. On 4th and medium with 14 minutes left, you go for it. And on 4th and medium with 12 minutes left, you kick the field goal? That raises a few obvious questions. Number one, why did you waste that much time? Why did you take 2 minutes off the clock for no reason if you were just going to do exactly what you could have done before? It's like in a basketball game if you have the option of letting the possession play out or intentionally fouling, and you decided first to let the possession play out. And then, with 5 seconds left on the clock, you intentionally foul. I don't mean an incidental foul, because that happens, but rather, your coach is screaming to foul the player with the ball and send him to the line. Like that was always an option, so why did you waste 20 seconds to do it? Number two, why did you put yourself in a situation where now you might have one less possession than before, and where now, because there's less time on the clock, if the Bears score anything at all, the game is just about over? Number three, why did you exhibit no urgency whatsoever and take the play clock all the way down after first down and second down if this was going to be the result? Number four, did you not trust Daniel Carlson from 28 yards out for some reason, but you did from 25 yards out? Because that's what it looks like. Like, do you see the problem I have with this? The logic that McDaniels employed here made no sense at all. If you're going to kick the field goal from the start, fine. If you're going to go for it from the start, fine. But to employ both strategies? All you're doing at that point is wasting clock for no reason and playing right into Chicago's hands. It's an absolutely horrible strategy on so many levels, and I wish I knew what Josh McDaniels was thinking with this. Believe me, I wish. No one asked him why he decided to kick the field goal here after opting, in an identical scenario 2 weeks before with more time on the clock, to go for it. But I at least understand here why the reporters didn't ask, because they grilled him for a lot of other things during the game. And the obvious question was why Brian Hoyer was starting over Aiden O'Connell. So I'm fine with the question not being asked, unlike some of the other post-game press conferences this week, where it seemed like the reporters were watching a completely different game. But you would think, after whatever happened against Pittsburgh, where he had an identical scenario, where he decided to accept a penalty on 4th down to get a new set of downs, only to then hit the field goal a few plays later and waste time, that he would have learned his lesson and learned that this was not a good idea in the 4th quarter when you're trying to mount a comeback and you're down by 3 scores. But apparently not. Apparently freaking not. That's Josh McDaniels for you in a nutshell. I am so sorry, Raiders fans. We're only 7 weeks into the season. We're not even halfway done. And yet, this is already the 3rd episode that Josh McDaniels has appeared on this year. And this doesn't even count his appearance last year, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And it's not like the schedule gets any easier for the Raiders going forward. Before their bye week, they've got games against Miami, Detroit, and Kansas City. They have no room for error. This was supposed to be the easy part. This was supposed to be the game that you won against a very bad Bears team starting a Division II quarterback. And you couldn't even do that because Josh McDaniels is so bad at his job. Then again, I wouldn't expect anything less from the guy that lost to the Rams last year in a game where the Rams quarterback knew the playbook for 24 hours and lost to Jeff freaking Saturday. I mean, Josh McDaniels, what are you doing, man? What more does Mark Davis need to see? I mean, I'm not complaining. It's free content for me, but Josh McDaniels should not have a job. It's that simple. And this dumb decision in the game between these two teams behind me right here is just another prime example of why he is woefully unqualified to be a head coach in this league. So what do we learn from all of this? If you go into a drive thinking one thing, and nothing about your situation changes whatsoever, stick with that one thing. Especially when that one thing makes complete and total sense. And even more sense with the clock. If you're losing in the fourth quarter by 3 scores, the clock is your greatest enemy. So to waste time for no reason whatsoever only hinders your chances at winning the ballgame at the end of the day. If you went for it on 4th and medium earlier, and from an almost identical spot, you've got 4th and medium again, there is no reason not to go for it once again. Cutting something to a 15-point game is not necessarily the flex that you think it is, because there are still so many variables at play, and it's only a 2-score game in theory. And Josh McDaniels is clearly not cut out to be a head coach. None of the slightest bit. His second stint is just as disastrous, if not more so, than the first. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.